Ladies and sinners, welcome to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Kayle Henderson. You guys can get at us on Twitter. Check out our YouTube here. Check out our StreamYard, at SinCity_IESR, at Kayle_Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports. If you folks want to support the show, please do. We love it. I like to do this for free, but I also love the support of fans, right? So folks appreciate the work. We appreciate the support here at IE Sports Radio. You guys can go to Spreaker.com/podcast/SinCitySports --577-3003/support. Any kind of support. Any kind of support would be great for the show. Be great for Larry B himself, Larry Belmontes, who does a great job of putting this whole shindig together. He's a great CEO, great founder. I'd love to be able to give back to him because, I mean, quite frankly, he's backed me for years now. My loose schedule, up and down. He's always been supportive, always loves our show, always coaching me up, always cheering me on. So any kind of support helps the channel. As well as, don't be afraid to go to iesportsradio.com. You can look at other shows, check out your area. If you love Vegas sports, give us a like, give us a follow. You can look back on all of our shows. No big deal at all. You can find us on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at YouTube, at iesportsradio.com. And we're available on almost every podcast. Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, the big ones, you name it. We're there. Audible, Amazon Music, I mean, just plenty of avenues for you to check out the show. Check out our neighbor shows. Check out our teammate shows. Again, I'm your host, Kayle Henderson. We're here for another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. A lot to talk about today. We're going to touch up on the Golden Knights. That'll be the very first part of our segment. Golden Knights are hanging on to first place in the Pacific Division by a slim margin. We'll talk about that. Jack Eichel had a hell of a showing, USA Hockey, and then we always got to talk about our Raiders. Because guess what? The NFL Combine's beginning. John Spytek, he's getting a lot of interview time. Gotta love it when we get back here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back, folks. Welcome back to the Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Kayle Henderson. You guys can get at us on our Twitter forums X. Don't get after me, Elon. I know what you're doing out there. Okay, I'm on your side. All right. On X, at SinCity_ISR, at Kayle_Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports. Honestly, all things cooking and food and everything like that, because I'm a foodie. Zero self-control. I had buffalo chicken tonight, steaks last night. It's just been a crazy whirlwind of meat because I'm back on carnivore, folks. Back on carnivore because I got to look good for a wedding in May. So my fiance who just had my baby doesn't just leave me at the altar. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I bet you some folks are wondering, hey, Kayle, why didn't you keep your at SinCity_ISR, at Kayle_Henderson banner up during the IE Sports Radio banner, media asset? Pretty simple. Nobody's bigger than the logo, man. Nobody's bigger than the team. It's that simple, man. Nobody is bigger than the jersey. Nobody's bigger than this logo. So I'm not just going to have that up in front, while we're talking about the platform that I talk sports on freely, where Larry B basically lets me get away with vernacular murder out here. I'm not going to do that. Come on. Nobody's bigger than the logo. I'm very appreciative of IE Sports Radio, very appreciative of Larry B and my teammates. Speaking of my teammates, Larry said, we're in this bitch. Love it, baby. Love it. Rated R. Seriously, though. What can you do? There's limits, though, guys. There's limits. We're almost like a Marvel movie. You can, if it's PG-13, you can only have one cuss word per show. Taryn Rodriguez said, good evening, Kayle. Have an awesome show. Missed you last week, brother. What is up, Kayle? Says Ralph Calise. You are the man. Lighted in. Oh yeah, you're awesome, dude. Hey, so kid was sick last week. I had to take care of that. Scary situation because we had doctors telling us he had RSV, which for a super young kid, not something you want to hear as a parent, considering that's basically the scariest virus that you can worry about. But he's been great, man. We had the fever under control very quickly, and he's just got a nasty cough, having a hard time getting things up. Been a little fussy today, but otherwise it's been, for a kid being as sick as Creed has been, it's been a smooth week. So keeping our fingers crossed. Really appreciate the support, guys. Sorry I missed the show. Hate doing that, but it's the off season, and I'm a football guy, so if there's not as much to talk about, sometimes maybe I'm giving you guys a break from seeing my face and listening to my very scratchy voice. By the way, I just got back from being sick. Essentially, I had my voice gone for like a week. My wife is in heaven. I'm telling you, she was in heaven. I wasn't able to talk for like a week. She's in heaven. So yeah, thank you guys. Welcome back. Great teammates, Larry B, Taryn, Ralph. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. We got 7 people. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see 100 more before the end of the show is done. Love to see 100 more before the end of the show is done. Shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket, Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. You guys can order at planetjerky.net. On Instagram at Planet Jerky. Check them out. If you guys order a bag of Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket, Beef Jerky, post on IG, tag them, tag IE Sports Radio. Guess what? You get a free bag of jerky. It's buy one, get one, and all you have to do is go to social media and work your thumbs a little bit. That's it. And you pick flavors, man. Mix and match. But order at planetjerky.net and then go to IG at Planet Jerky. That is Instagram at Planet Jerky. That's the easiest way to take advantage of that promo. IE Sports Radio is proudly sponsored by partner with Vital Apparel, a brand that is not only a great fit, but promotes mental health and research. Guys, I'm just now getting back in the gym. I have to, because again, I don't want my fiance to leave me at the altar. It's that simple. I call her my wife because we've been together for like 10 years. It's been a while. Very long time. I didn't have gray hair before her. I mean it. It's just how it works. But Vital Apparel, I think that's legit. Focusing on mental health and gym culture. Gym culture is a huge piece of that mental health, man. Let's just really focus on being positive. And when somebody does something well or somebody needs a spot, don't be weird about it. Just go ahead and go over, help them out, shake their hand, tell them they're doing a great job. There's been a few times where I've told somebody, hey, you've been here like week after week. It's great to see you. You're doing a great job. Or somebody's encouraged me and said, hey, you're putting in work, man. Keep it up. Just do it, man. That's great for mental health. It's great for fitness. Sometimes it's very discouraging for people to just go to the gym because people are constantly comparing each other. Don't do that. Just Vital Apparel. That's what Vital Apparel is all about, man. Strong mental health, activity, and my assumption would be strong gym culture. Maybe that's just me adding it, but that would be strong gym culture. Adam, thanks for joining the show, man. Good evening to you, sir. Seal the Deal Wax Seals. Guess what? You guys can order at iesportsradio.com/seal the deal wax seals, or you can go to Instagram at seal the deal _wax seals. Cecilia B does a great job. Larry's lovely wife, who is also somebody who really keeps this radio show together and supports what we do. She's an entrepreneur, small business. Give her some love, show her some support. And then as always, guys, you guys can follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at IE Sports Radio, at iesportsradio.com. You guys can go to iesportsradio.com/SinCitySports. Check out our show. Check out my bio, my goofy picture. It's what we do. At IE Sports Radio is available, or this show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, CastBox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Geo's Fun. I mess that up all the time, but I just want to feel French for half a second a week. Why not? Guys, we have so many avenues for you to hear the show. Listen back on the sound bites. I got a best friend that listens to my show every week. He's great. And when I don't put out an episode, he texts me like, what happened, dude? Why you slacking? He's that kind of friend. Like, he really enjoys the show. So there's so many avenues to visit the show, so many ways to like and follow and interact. Please do. That's what we're here for. That's why we love to do this, is the interactions in sports talk. That's why we're on Sports Talk Radio now. And this is just Sports Talk Radio. We're vlogging too. A lot has changed in like the 6-7 years I've been a part of IE Sports Radio. I tell you what, folks, a lot has changed. Larry B says, yay, Combine. I said, yeah, the Underwear Olympics. I put that in the group chat. Hardly anybody said anything back. So then I had to specify, I'm talking about the NFL Combine. It's an NFL Combine joke, because I don't want anybody to think I'm sus. Terrence says the Vegas Thrill, the Pro Volleyball Federation's women's volleyball team, have been in a 2-game slump, losing pathetic. Those losers. Losing to the Columbus Fury 8 days ago and Orlando Valkyries on Friday. The Underwear Olympics, Kale's favorite time of year. I hate the combine. It is interesting to hear about like the way some of those interviews go and stuff. And the draft is definitely my favorite time of year, probably when it comes to the NFL, because as a Raiders fan, it seems as though the only thing I have to look forward to is who are we drafting, mainly because Mark Davis has led a bunch of losers and we just haven't been winning for 20 years. So the draft is probably the most exciting time of year. The combine is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And to me, it's just an event at this point. It's an attraction. It gives people something to do in Indianapolis once a year. There's just really no way. And maybe it's just the times or the broad jump, or maybe some people see someone throw or their footwork or something in blocking drills, offensive, defensive line drills, whatever. But maybe that's what inspires front offices to look at their film. But there's nothing you're going to see in the combine that you wouldn't see in film. But to Adam's credit, even though he didn't say it, the Underwear Olympics does bring attention to some people that may be flying under the radar. So that's kind of a big deal. It is kind of fun to see how fast people run. Feels like that record's getting beat every couple years or something. It's just crazy how fast these guys are. So that's interesting. But yes, does start this week. Interviews have gotten underway. People start doing weigh-ins, I think, tomorrow. And then I believe the combine officially starts on Thursday. And usually it's some apropos position group. But knowing the NFL, they'll want to kick it off the right way and get as many viewers as possible. So could be quarterbacks day one, showing off their arms and the way they throw. Of course, people like Shedeur Sanders are too cool to throw. To be fair, in his defense, he's a Sanders. And I think he's put up a good body of work for him to get drafted in the first round. I seriously, I'm steadfast on this. I do not want the Raiders to trade up for him. Do not give away assets for this guy. In my humble opinion, this is just my opinion, I don't think Shedeur is anywhere near as good as those top 5 guys that were drafted last year. Like Penix is better, right? I don't know about Bo Nix, but Bo Nix proved to be a really good quarterback in his system under Sean Payton this year. And Sean Payton really does look smart for drafting him at 12 when he was believed to have the biggest reach in the entire draft. I said that, right? Bo Nix played really well towards the end of the season. Very efficient. I mean, he looks like a more mobile Drew Brees before the shoulder injury and everything in San Diego. So credit where credit's due. I do think Shedeur in the draft coming out now is better than what we saw from Bo Nix coming out last year, even with Bo Nix's prolific, high efficient year. But Shedeur to me is nowhere near as good as Michael Penix. I don't think he's on even in the realm of Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, or Drake May. Like, that's just me being honest, folks. I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody. That's just me being honest. JJ McCarthy, he's probably better than JJ McCarthy. He's probably better than JJ McCarthy. I thought Penix should have gone before him. Maybe he did. Yes, I think he did actually. JJ, maybe he went 10. Regardless, Shedeur's better than JJ right now, or coming out of the draft, and Shedeur's better than Bo Nix coming out of the draft. But those other 4 guys, no. There's just no way. Those guys I would have given up draft capital to go get. Even as bad as the Raiders are, if you're telling me the Raiders would have traded away 2 first-round picks and a couple second-round picks to get Jaden Daniels, I'd be okay with it, especially with all the cap. Oh, they'd be able to go out and get players. Regardless, Jaden's just a stud. Offensive Rookie of the Year for a reason. But I'm really happy we got Brock Bowers. This is something I need people to understand. We're going to talk about this later. Brock Bowers is the future. He's your number 1 receiver. We might see a lot of what we saw in Kansas City if we find the right guy to throw him the ball. A lot of what we saw in Kansas City and in Las Vegas. Seriously. Your number 1 receiver will be the tight end. And then you will find very, very solid pass catchers to put around him. And then hope that your quarterback turns out to be, 3/4 as good as Patrick Mahomes, but fat chance because it's just really hard to find anybody like that. Not a fan of Shedeur Sanders in the top 6. If he falls to 6, I could totally understand the Raiders picking him. Do not want the Raiders to trade away assets to go get him, though. That's my firm belief. The team is just not good enough yet. We'll find out after free agency, but I don't think one free agency is going to save the Raiders. I don't think it's going to make them contenders right away. So to me, just let it lay where it lies and get the best available player. It wouldn't surprise me because Pete Carroll has a track record of doing this. It wouldn't surprise me if Pete Carroll trades back from 6 because him and Bill Belichick were really known for trading back, wherever they were to the late first round, mid first round, because they loved acquiring more picks and filling up depth in the roster at a lower rate. So we'll see what happens there. But excited for the draft. That's late April as always. Essentially right around, nope, that'll be 2 weeks before my wedding. So I'll be able to see that whole thing, get some study in. I've been paying really close attention to PFF and the way things look there, and we're going to talk about that a little bit as far as Raiders' biggest needs and what I think they should end up doing. But and you guys pay attention to the X count as well at SinCity_ISR, where I talk, about quarterbacks and stuff. I'm not like a lot of the other content creators where they're absolutely in love and obsessive about Shedeur Sanders. I think it's ridiculous because, again, I don't think he's anywhere near as good as what we've seen out of prospects the last 2 years. I think he looked good on a bad team. And realistically, when he played good competition, he folded. That's just my opinion. Like, he lost to 6-6 Nebraska, dude. You got destroyed. I know your offensive line was bad, but Nebraska was bad too. Like, they weren't good. And you didn't look very good against that secondary. So it is what it is. I'm just being honest and upfront about what I see. Shedeur, if he fell to 6, I wouldn't be upset if they took him, as long as we've filled out some major needs on the roster. Just don't trade up. Don't give away assets when you're trying to build a team, build a contender. And the reason why I also say that is Kansas City's getting older. And those cap issues are starting to come in. Travis Kelce maybe has one more year in him, and as you can tell from that Super Bowl game, Father Time has basically caught up with him. He's going to have a hard time being extremely efficient this year. I think they're okay with getting him the ball 3 to 4 times a game in key moments because he's a Hall of Famer and he knows when to get open, but he's just not the same guy. So there's a good chance that now Patrick Mahomes is still there, so there's a good chance that they're always going to be great, but they may not be as feisty and may not go on the same kind of run for a long time like they did these past 5 years. It's going to be really difficult as the AFC continues to get better. We're going to go to a quick break here, play some drops from teammates, special teammates that are in the chat. If you guys have any questions, again, hit me up at SinCity_ISR to speak all things Vegas sports. Pick my brain about the NFL draft. I love to scout guys. Love to give my opinion on what I think of specific athletes and where they fit. Always hit me up on that, but we are going to take a quick break here on Sin City Sports, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Calise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports, and I will update you on all that's black and gold and have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from the break there. This is your host, Kayle Henderson, here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Shout out to our teammates there, Ralph Calise from the Injury Report, Adam Karnick from Chi-Town Weekly, and Larry B himself, the man, the myth, the legend, there with the defining moment. Love to give my teammates who drop into the chat a good shout out on their show, and Taryn Rodriguez will be next when it comes to the next break. That's just kind of how I handle drops when it comes to teammates. If they're going to be here, I'm going to show them up in front of my viewers, all 23 of you. There should be 100 more in the next half hour. Come on, folks. Like, share, get people on here because we're going to talk about Raiders here soon enough. Touching base on our Golden Knights. Golden Knights have absolutely had they've had an up and down couple weeks. There's no doubt about that. Up and down couple weeks. It has been a weird, because almost Worlds, I can't remember what they called it, the four champs or whatever tournament that just took place. But it was basically Worlds, right? USA Hockey did the unbelievable and beat a really deep Canadian team this year. And I give a lot of props to Jack Eichel, who had a great showing the entire tournament. Like, Jack Eichel was very impressive. Jack Eichel did a great job. And it's not surprising because he does a great job for our Las Vegas Golden Knights. Golden Knights are first in the Pacific Division. And it's kind of crazy they are because it feels like since the Islanders game, and this was back, oh man, see if I can get a bit of a recap. This was back on January 10th. Since the Islanders game, the Vegas Golden Knights, let's take a look here. The Vegas Golden Knights have had 6 wins. They're like 6-12 since the Islanders game, and somehow are still first in the Pacific Division. Now, granted, they've had some injuries. That seems to happen every year around the midpoint of the year for the Vegas Golden Knights. Don't get me wrong, but it just seems to be a recurring theme for these guys. Just kind of crazy. Kind of crazy when you think about it. So Vegas Golden Knights are still on a run. They're still first in the division as of right now. Power play percentage, we're looking at 27%, so that's among the highest in the league. Points per goal against. Points per, let's take a look here. Penalty kill, 76.9%. That's not bad at all. Means your defense is pretty damn good. I think the top echelon is probably the mid 80s. We'll get more on that for you guys. No problem at all. But I mean, seriously, it's been a good year for the Vegas Golden Knights. 100% has been a good year. They have to continue to build on that. And the issue I see, because just looking at what's 58 games have been played, there's 82 games in a regular season. Only about 24 games left, right? 24 games left. And it's kind of crazy because before that Islanders game, we were talking about Jack Eichel and how he's probably going to hit 100 points. Things have slowed down tremendously, man. Like, back when we talked about that, he was in the mid-40s already. Been about 18 games, and he's only at 69 points. So, we'll see what happens. Dorofeyev, the left wing, Pavel Dorofeyev, he's the leader in goals right now. Jack Eichel's leader in assists. Jack Eichel's super close in goals, though. He's at 19. So, Eichel's 19. Mark Stone's come back. He's starting to get healthy. 15. That's going to help a lot. Tomas Hertl, I can't believe he's still playing. He's at 22 goals. So he's been killing it for the Vegas Golden Knights there at center. Great for the team because he's your second line center. Because this guy is not going to beat out Jack Eichel. Jack Eichel's too talented. But it's been a good showing. Goaltending wise, we're seeing 21-10 from Adin Hill. 2.5 goals against, so that's improved slightly because I think it was like a 2.6 or 2.79 before. And then the save percentage is 90%. So what that tells me is the Vegas Golden Knights are not doing a good enough job of breaking up pucks in the middle of the ice. They're allowing fast breaks. They're allowing teams to really kind of get into their defensive zone. Terrence says, still tuning in, Kayle. Don't worry. I'm not going anywhere. Love it. Four Nations face-off. Thank you so much, Taryn. You're the man. Adam says, should the Raiders push for a quarterback or ride it out with Aiden one more season? So, man, that's a great question. We're going to table that for a tiny bit, Adam, because we're going to finish up with the Golden Knights here, go to a quick break, play a couple of Taryn Rodriguez's drops because he's the man, the myth, the legend himself and his shows, and then we'll kind of touch base on that. My feeling is they're going to find a starter. If they decided to go with him, I wouldn't be upset because I'd like to see him have a full season under a competent offensive coordinator. But I don't know. Something in my gut tells me they're going to go after a veteran quarterback. I don't like the Matthew Stafford thing. And again, we'll get into more detail on this, but Matthew Stafford's probably going to cost at least a third, and the guy wants $50 million a year. Like, he wants a huge raise. And he's had some injury issues the last couple of years again for the Rams. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He probably only has a few years left. I guess my question would be, Aaron Rodgers is going to get released. Would you give away a third-round pick and give Matthew Stafford basically a huge raise, like almost 100% raise? Like, he's due $27 million from the Rams. Do you want to raise him to $50 million and a third-round pick for a few years left? I don't know. Is he one of the greatest quarterbacks we've seen? Yes, one of the most talented we've ever seen too. But part of me feels like if you're going to take a flyer on a veteran, you might as well just give Aaron Rodgers a chance, see what happens. But we'll talk about that more in depth as we get in there. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, the Golden Knights are just they're not playing as well as they can, and it's obvious. It is obvious they're not playing as well as they should be. How do you change that? Again, I believe that they need to attack the puck, maybe do more of a full ice press. I don't think they've pressed as much as they have in years past. Some of that could be the nagging injuries. Don't get me wrong. To me, it just doesn't feel like they're in it, if that makes sense. They're not where they normally are. And that's it's frustrating. It's frustrating to see that. It's frustrating to know that this team could be another championship caliber team. We just don't know if they're going to piece it together like they always do. This year just feels like there's more doubt. Do they go on a run at the end of every year? Yes, 100%. Feels like they absolutely go on a run to either pull away or put themselves in playoff contention every single year. That's just something the Golden Knights are very good at. They do tend to do transactions to win. So that has I've never lost faith in that. Do we have enough this year? You still have Jack Eichel. You still have Mark Stone. Tomas Hertl's absolutely picked it up. Barbashev's still playing really well. Brett Howden's playing pretty well, although they've had a slight drop-off. I'd say a slight drop-off, but nothing major. Everything seems to be going through Jack. Again, 50 assists, 19 goals. He's got 69 points. He's your point leader in the team by a large margin. The next is Mark Stone at 50. So Jack is producing. He's doing what he needs to do. Can we get a couple other guys to step up? That'll be the question. Where's William Karlsson been? What has he been up to? He doesn't seem as strong as he was, especially during that Stanley Cup playoff year. Is he overshadowed because of Jack Eichel? Because the very first year they were a team, they went to the finals, and William Karlsson was a huge reason why. Where's he been? Has he been dealing with injuries? Some nagging ones, yes. But he's got 7 goals and 11 assists, 18 points total, which tells me he's been largely inactive. We need him back. If you want to pull away, if you want to be a deep contender, William Karlsson has to come back. And Shea Theodore needs to step it up on the defensive end. Be a leader. Do what you have to do. Now, granted, he's played 55 of 58 games. So Shea's been a warhorse. He's been an absolute warhorse. William Karlsson's just 20 games, by the way. Just saw that. 20 games. And he's usually a pretty good piece. So if he's not healthy, you're missing a strong piece. That's your third line center, roughly. Because Tomas Hertl's likely your second line center. You're missing a lot if you're missing William Karlsson in third line. That leaves your fourth line with like Barbashev. Like that'd be one of the strongest fourth line centers you're going to find in the league. Easily. So yeah, I mean, Vegas Golden Knights are rolling. They just need to start going on a run here. It's not going to be easy because their schedule, I mean, you go to the Blackhawks, aren't very good, but they've gotten better. You have a bunch of Pacific Division opponents coming up here soon. So what side of the Golden Knights are we going to see? That really efficient one that goes on a run every single year before the playoffs begin? It's possible. I'd like to see that because that's their best version. That's the best version. But shout out again to Jack Eichel for a great showing for USA Hockey for the Four Nations Face-Off tournament. USA won against Canada, and they did it really well and decidedly, and it was physical and a lot of back and forth, and they're probably pissed off about the tariffs. Just kidding, but seriously. So they wanted to have it out. They still own hockey. I saw a tweet on X the other day from a Canadian hockey fan saying, how does the 11th province sound or whatever? Because Trump's been saying the 51st state for Canada. This guy goes, how does the 11th province sound? I started laughing like, we get it. You guys are better at hockey. Your guys, they're walking, they're skating before they walk and run. We get it. We're going to go to a quick break here. Represent one of our best teammates here on IE Sports Radio. Then we get back, we're going to talk all things Raiders. We get back here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Rate, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy white tea. We're coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back, ladies and sinners, to the final portion of our show, where we get to talk about our Las Vegas Raiders. You want to know why? Because the NFL Combine's begun. We've seen interviews. We've heard from John Spytek. We've heard from Pete Carroll. It's pretty simple. The Raiders are in rebuild mode. They finally admit that they have to build a roster, and they need to do it with the money that they have and through the draft, primarily through the draft. Really excited because John Spytek comes from a background under Jason Light, there at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where they're really good at drafting players. And it's kind of funny and it's eerie at that. We watched this Super Bowl this past year, and you saw the way the Philadelphia Eagles were built, right? I watched the Philadelphia Eagles kind of run around on the field. They're big D-line. They were playing physical, keeping everything in front of them, forcing Patrick Mahomes to make crazy plays. And I just saw the Buccaneers there. And I'm sitting here thinking, if anybody, and I've said this, with a couple GMs, but regardless, I have a really good feeling about John Spytek, and maybe that's because Tom Brady himself said, you're the right man for the job. We think you can build it. And he is a veteran head coach who knows how to win in this league and develop players as his head coach. So he just needs to pick the right players, and you're probably going to see winning no matter what, right? Because Pete Carroll, that's what he does. He wins. Doesn't matter where he goes, he wins. So, God, Larry, you had to do that, huh? Larry B said Raiders could have had Carter. Jalen Carter. Oh my gosh. Yeah. They most certainly could have. But, I guess Tyree Wilson was just the future. Whichever dumbass thought that. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. They compared Tyree Wilson to Chandler Jones. They saw that comp. That's why they drafted him. Just remember that. I know Chandler Jones was crazy at the end of his career, but the man was a god, a demigod in the pass rush for a decade. Chandler Jones was Mr. Consistent. That was tall order to say Tyree Wilson was the next Chandler Jones. Very tall order. And Jalen Carter was believed to be the best player in that draft, period. And the Eagles got him at 10. It's just sick, dude. The year after, I think they drafted Jordan Davis or whatever. Or maybe Jordan Davis was drafted the year. Regardless, their front line is disgusting, and they're young. I think the Eagles could repeat. We might see two repeat teams in a row, because the Eagles are that deep. And Howie Roseman seems to always find a way to manage the cap and get star players on his roster. People thought they were spent last year. Guess what? They found $13 million to get Saquon Barkley over there. What happened? Everything's history. They're an unbelievable team. So, yeah, still salty about Jalen Carter. Salty about quite a few other moves the Raiders have made over the last 20 years. That's why I'm hoping John Spytek's willing to step in and be like, hey, guys, unless these guys love football and they're great people and they have great character, we're not drafting them, And that kind of brings me back to what Adam Karnick was saying. Do you ride with Aiden O'Connell? If you don't feel like you can get a quarterback that can come in and compete for the starting job this year, yes, of course. If you don't think you can get Aaron Rodgers off the couch because he's going to get cut by the Jets, that's been made very apparent, which means he'd probably come here on a discount knowing that he's got Tom Brady and there's $100 million cap and the ability to build a super team essentially, because that's all it takes is 2 years of lots of cap space and great draft picks, and all of a sudden you have a contender, right? Look at the Detroit Lions. Perfect example. They had 2 stellar years in the draft, 2 stellar years in free agency. They have a coach that players fell in love with. And what takes place? They're contenders. Pete Carroll's the same way. He did the same thing in Seattle. More reason to be optimistic. You have a head coach with a ton of experience that, guys, I shit you not when I say this, because I've heard this probably 20 times in the last decade or so. When Pete Carroll got to the Seahawks, he did 100 transactions in 2 off seasons. Well over 100 transactions in 2 off seasons to build that Super Bowl winning team. Don't be surprised if we see that here in Las Vegas. Don't be surprised. Now, he's not the VP of football ops this time. He was there. He's not here. John Spytek's in charge. And he just let go of Champ Kelly. So that tells you that he's probably going to bring in his own system GM. But he's the decision maker. Him and Tom Brady are going to make the final decisions when it comes to the draft. So when Adam asked, are the Raiders going to push for a quarterback or ride out Aiden O'Connell? I do think they'll try and push. Like, if there's a year to pull the trigger when you have $100 million in cap space and 9 draft picks, this is the year to do it. You might as well. And the reason why I say that is if they get some veteran that isn't overly expensive. Like, there's a chance Aaron Rodgers comes here for $30 million a year, and you'll do that. You'll do a 2-year, just like Pete Carroll. You'll do like a 2-year contract with a 3rd-year option. And at that point, they just kind of revisit how he's feeling. But I think we can get 2 really good years out of Aaron Rodgers, especially with the way our defense has improved every single year. You know what that allows you to do? Build the offensive line. Protect Aaron Rodgers. Because you have Jacoby Myers and you have Brock Bowers. And I've said this, and I will say this very loudly. Brock Bowers is your number 1 receiver. Your offense needs to run through him. You need a talented quarterback, don't get me wrong, but you need to do the same thing the Chiefs did. He needs to be the focal point of your offense. Jacoby Myers needs to be a possession receiver. Trey Tucker needs to be used as speed and a home run hitter. And then you really need to get a great all-around route savant of a receiver in this year's draft. I don't think that'll happen at 6. I just don't. Nguenganu or whatever out of Ohio State is probably the best route runner I can think of right now. The kid out of Arizona that everybody's blowing up, I just think he's more of a big vertical threat, not a great route runner. So, Ekwonu, whatever. Regardless, that kid from Ohio State is somebody I'd trust in the first round, but I wouldn't take him at 6. This is one of those things where if the Raiders are sure they want to get a pass catcher or a weapon, you try to trade back. Because there are going to be some guys that will jump ship and give a king's ransom if Shedeur falls to 6. I also think that Jackson Dart is getting blown up right now. Is he a good quarterback? Yes. Do I think he's a first-round quarterback? It's tough, man. He's got the intangibles, but I don't think he's a first-round quarterback. That's just my opinion. At least not a high first-round pick. I'd probably take him later in like the 30s if you're a team that has an established quarterback quality team and you just need a good backup to one that can grow into your starter eventually. That's how I do that. No different than what the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson, right? Joe Flacco was the guy for at least a year, and then Lamar stepped in, and it's been all she wrote. It's a couple MVPs later. So just something to think about. I do think the Raiders will push for a quarterback. They don't have to. I think Aiden's more than serviceable enough to win some games, not make a contender. You'd have to have an unbelievable roster for that to be the case. But Aiden O'Connell's still a good player, and I don't know if he really got a fair shake in this year's offense. I just don't. They brought in Gardner Minshew. I think that Antonio Pierce wanted to go with the veteran. I think that he had veteran coaches telling him, hey, you go with the veteran, the guy that's been there before, the guy who's consistently done the same thing that Aiden basically did the year before. Statistically, Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell were identical before the season started last year in their careers. Aiden just only had 2 years to play. So Antonio made a really bad decision in going with Gardner Minshew so long. I think, and I said this from the very beginning, I thought Aiden should have been your guy from day one. See what you have. I wouldn't blame the Raiders if they went that route. Use your draft picks to fill your team. Use your cap space to fill your team. Build around a young rookie contract because Aiden's got 2 more years left on his deal. You might as well take advantage of it if you want to. But personally, it wouldn't surprise me if Aaron Rodgers or Matthew Stafford end up on the Raiders. I do not want the Raiders to spend a boatload of money on Sam Darnold. I don't. I think Sam Darnold played in a quarterback-friendly system last year under Kevin O'Connell. I truly believe that. Did he play great? Absolutely. I just don't know if he'd play that same way in a Raiders uniform when you're rebuilding a team. I don't see it. So to me, it's not worth spending $40 million a year. And I'll put it like this: the top 5 quarterbacks, if it were up to me, 5 would probably be Sam Darnold, 4 Justin Fields, 3 would be Matthew Stafford, and it's only because you'd have to give up a draft pick and probably pay him $50 million a year because that's what he seems to be asking for. And I wonder if he's doing that so he can stay in LA ultimately because he kind of owns the leverage there. And LA has to figure out, what are they going to get for draft comp, fair draft comp. If a team offers a third, I think LA has to jump on it for an older quarterback who's leaving his prime. But yeah, Matt Stafford would be 3. Aaron Rodgers would be 2. And I'm joking when I say this because every one of those guys would be bumped up 1 spot. But number 1 would be Andrew Luck. Bring him out of retirement. I'm just kidding. That'd be amazing, though. It would be amazing. As far as like draft needs for the Raiders, well, here's the biggest needs for the Raiders. I think they need to fill their offensive line. I truly believe that. I think they need to fill their offensive line. They need to rebuild it. I believe they probably should look into trading Colton Miller, although he's been a top 10 left tackle on a shit team. I think you trade him, and what that allows you to do, especially if you get some guy in free agency, whether it's Justin Fields or Aaron Rodgers, those guys that will be free agents that you can go out and get. I think it's really important to have new bookends. So there's a lot you could do at number 6 if you find your guy in free agency, or a camp body to come in and really compete with Aiden, push him. If you decide to go with him, Aiden's serviceable. He's shown that. I think the problem is he's had 2 different offenses in his first 2 years. That's kind of what happens when you're playing for a dysfunctional franchise. It's that simple. So what I think the Raiders need to do, bolster your offensive line. Like, if I were the Raiders, I'd go after Trey Smith in Kansas City. He may want to stay, but that dude's a mauler, and he's going to change your guard situation. So much so that you can start looking at whether you really want to keep Andre James. I think Andre James is your weakest point on your offensive line, and it's been that way for a few years. Has he improved? Yes. You got to remember he was a tackle at UCLA before all of a sudden Tom Cable moved him to center. And then they got rid of the great Rodney Hudson to let him step in. He's improved, but he's still the weakest point on your offensive line. That dude gets mauled every game. He's not a very good in the run blocking. He's actually pretty damn good in the pass block. Not very good in the run block. So Dylan Parham and Jackson Powers-Johnson, to me, they're kind of playing out of position anyway. So if you go out and get a Trey Smith, guess what? One of those guys can move into center. And if it were up to me, I'd probably move Jackson Powers-Johnson back into center. I'd move him right into the middle and just go ahead and plug Trey Smith in and leave Dylan Parham where he's at. But what trading Colton Miller does is, one, it adds assets. I think that you could get a 2nd and a 5th for Colton Miller, or a 2nd and a 6th for Colton Miller. I really do, which allows you at number 6 to maybe go after that Campbell kid out of LSU. But the biggest needs right now are our quarterback, offensive line. I think you need a dynamic route running savant of a receiver. Jacoby Myers is great at possession. Brock Bowers is going to be your prolific number one target at tight end or H-back, however you want to call him, flanker. He's going to be moved all over the place. But you need that receiver. So those are the top three needs, and they're all in offense, right? And then for me, I think that the D-line depth would be number 4. We need another massive body in the middle that'll help push the pile and keep some heat off of Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby. And Malcolm Kuntz, they bring him back, right? Like, you need another guy in the middle that's going to bolster that. That could happen in the draft, very well. Very well could happen in the draft. That could also happen in free agency. So bolster your front 7. That has to be need number 4, and that's asterisks. Because what I can tell you is, look at the Eagles' defense. If you can bolster your front 7, guess what? That secondary is helped out. Those 2 young rookies are studs. Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell are studs. But they got a lot of help because that front 7 could rush 4 and allow those 3 linebackers to either fill gaps in the run, blitz every once in a while, or drop into coverage and really just take away parts of the field and make it hard for quarterbacks to complete footballs. So those are huge needs for me. As far as quarterback, again, I don't like the Matthew Stafford idea. If they pull the trigger, am I going to complain? No. I do not want them to give him $50 million a year. That'd be crazy. That'd be crazy money. That's half of your cap space going into this offseason. I just don't think that's worth it. Does he have one of the greatest arms we've ever seen? Yes. Is he a Super Bowl champ? Absolutely. And I think he'd work really well with John Spytek, and I think he'd work great with Tom Brady. And I think I also believe Pete Carroll would love Matt Stafford. I just don't know if that's in the realm this year. Now, I said that about Devontae Adams a few years ago. The Raiders traded for him. That ended up being abysmal, not necessarily his fault by any means, but that ended up being abysmal. So I could be wrong. I just don't see the Matthew Stafford situation happening. That simple. Nothing against people that want that to happen. I just don't see it happening. I think Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, or Justin Fields are more likely. And it's probably not in that order. It's probably Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson as your top 3 guys that I think end up on this team. Sam Darnold, $40 million a year is just not good. I don't think he's good enough to make $40 million a year. He had a hell of a year. Again, quarterback-friendly offense under Kevin O'Connell. You saw that he can win even with not a very good quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater or whoever was there a couple years ago when Kirk went down for a little bit. Kirk Cousins went down for a little bit. Regardless, I just don't like it. I don't like that move. I don't like Sam Darnold. I don't think, not that he's not talented. I just don't like him in the Raiders uniform. I don't know if I see that as a fit. For a team that's rebuilding, I see it as a liability giving one player $40 million. It's that simple. Now, if the Raiders were to trade for like a Joe Burrow or, you guys get what I'm saying. If they were to trade for something like that, yeah, pay that man $40+ million because he's proven he can get it done. I just don't know if Sam's that guy. He's had one good year. One good year. So, quarterback, what I think is most likely to happen is Justin Fields because he's going to be cheap and he's going to want a fresh start, and he'd be a great fit for Chip Kelly's offense. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is the number 2 choice. Only because he's got some baggage right now, man. I also think that the New York Jets, everybody's going to have a hard time winning there. But he may want a veteran coach. He may want a veteran GM. He may want a veteran quarterback who's now the owner to kind of guide him and help put this team together. So Aaron Rodgers is the number 2 likely scenario. And number 3 is probably Matthew Stafford. I just don't know if I like it. And hell, who knows? Maybe Tom Brady talks to Matt and says, hey, Matt, here's the deal. You are probably worth $50 million for a franchise to come in and win a Super Bowl. What can we do to keep you around 27, 28? How can we do that? Because it's going to be really cap friendly and make it really easy for us to build a team, a juggernaut around you. What can we do? If those conversations took place, great. But Matt Stafford's about his money, man. He's probably trying to get that last really big check before he retires. And $50 million a year would be very tough to pass on. So I respect it. Draft-wise, Shedeur Sanders is definitely an option. I get why people are excited. I think Cam Ward goes number 1. I think he's the more polished. Shouldn't say more polished. I think he's got the bigger arm. He's got tools that Shedeur doesn't quite have yet, and we didn't see much because he played in Colorado with a shit offensive line, and he was kind of overshadowed by his dad and Travis Hunter for that matter. But I think the number 1 draft pick is going to be Cam Ward. And then I think that the Cleveland Browns have got a choice to make. Do you ride with Deshaun Watson and take on dead money for 1 more year and put Travis Hunter on your football team? Or do you draft Shedeur, try to trade Deshaun Watson or cut him, take on dead cap, and then you have, a brand new quarterback that you can. Stefanski is an excellent coach. He'll figure it out. Regardless, there's also a scenario that where Shedeur could fall to 6. He's been refusing to take workouts at combines. I think he's, in his mind, his film says enough. Cam Ward's film says enough. Like, these guys aren't going to do something if they don't want to do it because they're the top 2 quarterbacks. And teams are probably going to trade up or make mistakes to get one of these guys. I just hope it's not the Raiders. Doesn't mean Shedeur Sanders is not a possibility because he is. He is. I don't want the drama here. I think he's more polished than Cam Ward. And I'll say it like this. How much of being Deion Sanders' kid is going to be a distraction for him in the NFL? It's possible, guys. You can't rule it out. Happy he's confident. And if the Raiders did get him at 6, great. I hope he absolutely kills it. I just don't know if it's going to happen. Part of me doesn't feel like Shedeur will make it out of the top 5, which means the Raiders would have to trade up. I do not want the Raiders to trade up. Do not give away assets. Because in my opinion, again, hate to beat a dead horse, but in my opinion, Shedeur is not even on the level of those top 3 quarterbacks from last year. And the Raiders weren't willing to trade up for them. So why do that for Shedeur? Why? It doesn't make sense. Number 2 on my wish list as far as the draft's concerned, I really like Kyle McCord. I do. I think Kyle McCord's got the strongest arm in this draft. I think he's got the most upside. I think he was hidden away in Syracuse. According to PFF, he has the best pressure grade by far among all quarterbacks that are in the draft this year. I like the idea of Kyle McCord, and you probably get him in the 3rd round. And guess what? The last time Pete Carroll drafted a 3rd-round quarterback, it turned out pretty damn well for him because he had a great defense and a small rookie salary cap to build around. I love Kyle McCord, man. There's just something about it. He's got moxie. He can sling it. He just looks like a Raiders quarterback to me. Big arm, lots of velocity. I mean, dude, I'm all for it. Jordan Palmer is a big fan of Kyle McCord. He has no idea why he's being projected in the 3rd, not in the 1st. And then number 3, for obvious reasons, would be Jackson Dart. I think he's proven he's a winner. He can throw the ball in awkward positions and put his team in a position to win. Jalen Milroe is interesting to me. If the Raiders took a flyer on him in the 2nd round, I would not be upset. Because I look at Jalen and I just see a much bigger Russell Wilson. I'll tell you what, this has been my comp for him for 2 years. And my friends think I'm crazy, but I'm for real when I say this. My comp for Jalen Milroe is Vince Young. He's probably just a more polished Vince Young. Not as popular. Didn't take, Texas or one of the greatest programs ever to a national title. But when I look at Jalen Milroe and I see the way he throws the football and runs, I just see Vince Young. And he's an unbelievable athlete, guys. Like, there are some people that say he was the fastest dude in Alabama, which is nuts. You have some of the greatest recruits, period. And there are people that said he was the fastest guy on the team. So I don't think he's anywhere in the Terrell Pryor league where Terrell Pryor just wasn't that good of a thrower. He was just a great athlete. I think he's a plus thrower. He could be a better thrower than what Cam Newton was coming out of the draft, in my opinion. Jalen Milroe is so intriguing. And the only reason why he doesn't crack my top 2 is he's just raw, man. And he's going to need a lot of help. And he's played a spread system for 2 years. I just don't know if he's going to fit, but he could be a great fit for Chip Kelly. Jalen Milroe can. So if they decide to take a flyer on him in the second, I wouldn't be upset. But I'm just hoping that doesn't mean, they pass on a quarterback in free agency because of it. Or no matter what quarterback comes in, whether it's Kyle McCord, whether it's Jalen Milroe, right? Whether it's Shedeur Sanders at 6, Jackson Dart. Like, these guys have to come in and compete with Aiden. And Aiden has to show us whether he wants to be the winner or not. Period. So great situation for the Raiders when it comes to quarterback possibilities. I'm just saying. Great situation. I don't want the Raiders to go out and blast a load on T. Higgin. Wait. Take that back. I don't want them to blow all their money on T. Higgins. Just don't want to see it. I don't think he's anywhere on Jamar Chase's level. He doesn't deserve that kind of money. And I don't think the Raiders need it. Again, if the Raiders get a competent quarterback that can throw play action, and by the way, this would be hilarious. What if Derek Carr's released and the Raiders give him another shot under Tom Brady, John Spytek, and Pete Carroll? He'd be a great stopgap quarterback for 2 years. And that would give you the ability to go after Jalen Milroe and develop him, by the way, under Chip Kelly. That would be phenomenal. But watch him come in, because he's never had a defense as good as what he'd show up here. The Saints were great at some points, but they get so hurt. I don't know, man. Derek Carr's an option too. He's outside of the realm of what I told you the top 3 were, but if he gets cut, you can't tell me that Mark Davis wouldn't go to Tom and say, hey, I'd like to have Derek back. He's great for this team. He's a Raider. The Raiders fans would go crazy. They would go apeshit, but I'm just saying it's a possibility. Not telling you I want it. I'm just saying it's a possibility. So draft-wise, my order for draft wish list would be Kyle McCord, Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, and then on the wish list, Jalen Milroe. And it's only because I don't think Cam Ward's going to be available. But Shedeur's number 2 because he's the most polished quarterback in this draft as of right now. To me, though, Kyle McCord is the most intriguing guy, and he's the guy I want. I think he's got the best grade against pressure, which is what we need because the offensive line's not great. He's got a great arm. He's got the best arm in this draft, and he just had a hell of a year at Syracuse. At Syracuse, guys. Syracuse. The nobody Orangeman. There's something about this guy. Take him in the 3rd, see what happens. I mean it. I think it'd be a good situation. Total. A long time. They have a boatload of cap space. They have 9 draft picks, and it feels like they have some pretty competent people running the franchise, or at least the football side of things, which you don't see very often. Not for the Raiders. It's been 2 playoff seasons the last 20 years. Mark Davis is a joke, and I'm glad he brought in Tom Brady for that reason. And I'm glad he admitted it. Just to kind of recap, guys, Golden Knights first in the Pacific Division. They're absolutely killing it. Got to give them their love. Shout out to Jack Eichel for his great performance in the pardon me, the Four Nations face-off. Thought he did a great job. Talked about the Raiders for a little bit tonight. Their biggest needs, again, quarterback, number 1, offensive line, number 2, a all-around dynamic receiver, number 3, to pair with Brock Bowers and that possession guy, Jacoby Myers, who doesn't get enough love. The defensive line needs to have focus. They need to build depth, especially that front 7. That needs to be a huge one. And probably get a lockdown corner, man. I don't know if they quite have one yet. So those would be the top 5 needs free agency-wise, right, if they can do it. As far as, like, the draft's concerned, we focused a lot about quarterback. I would just love to see the Raiders end up with Kyle McCord. Give him a shot in the 3rd round. I think he's a starter. I truly believe that. I've watched this film. I watched some of his film right 3 games in. He looks phenomenal. And we're not talking about 3 games against William & Mary School of the Blind. It was great competition. I thought he played really well. And PFF feels the same way. His pressure grade was 92 or something. It's the highest among quarterbacks this year. I'm okay with them taking a flyer on him. But if they don't, and Shedeur lands at 6, I'm cool with that too. I'm cool taking a flyer on a Sanders kid. Again, he's polished. I think that he's going to play well. He's going to probably be a long-time starter in this league. I just don't know if if the Raiders can afford that personality on their team right now, being that they're not a good franchise and they have a lot of work to do. Free agency wise, again, what I think is likely to happen is Justin Fields, because he'll be the cheapest option. He's got the most upside, right? Aaron Rodgers at 2. Give him a 2 to 3 year contract. See what he wants to do. See if he stays healthy. Because if you build a great team around Aaron, he's going to do a great job. Build an offensive line, right? And then number 3, something tells me Matt Stafford's on the board. Sam Darnold, get him out of here. Don't give him $40 million a year. I just don't want to see it. This is the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. You guys can catch us on at SinCity_ISR, at Kayle_Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports on X. If you guys want to support the show, please do go to Spreaker.com/podcast/SinCity Sports --577-3003/support. Support the show the best way you can, guys, because any of it helps. And I mean, Larry B deserves the support as well. I'm telling you. He deserves support as well. He kicks ass, takes names. As always, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. And love, peace, and hair grease.